Hello everyone and welcome to another New World video. My name's Brian if you happen to be new to the channel, but if you're part of the 15,388 amazing freaking legends who I'm going to continually to casually encourage you guys to freaking kick ass and reach for the stars. Welcome back, welcome in, and welcome to the video itself. We got a lot to talk about. This is going to be focused primarily on the latest dev Q&A video, which we can summarize it that it's basically called the wait till next week video. And the reason why they delivered this video here for us today is that they wanted to keep this rocking and rolling. They wanted to continue to develop that muscle of consistency and in a way of predictability, especially when it comes to communication. This is a great way of establishing trust, and I'm personally excited. But if you guys have already been subscribed to the channel, nothing I just shared with you guys is new. Of course, Brian is excited. Brian has this unfathomable, unrealistic love of video games, and that is pretty much all you probably want to know about me today. But let's talk about kind of my highs and lows coming off of this event, because I honestly am more excited than ever for next week. There has just been a absolute kind of void of information and a lot of things to kind of be excited about and talk about, and now today it seems like we're finally starting to kind of see a better picture for what's to happen this fall. If you guys don't know, I like to play a lot of other games too. Right now I'm really excited about First Starfield, been covering that over on Ginger Prime, my other channel, and I cannot wait for that. So we're going to be playing that as well. So that should hopefully start to ease into what we'll be looking at this expansion for next week. But a couple things that stood out. Obviously, they talked about they're in a new location for filming this Q&A, and they're going to talk to us more about that new location and why that is the way it is next week. The dev update obviously clearly being next week, and a lot of the questions that were asked all kind of fall into next week. Like, can we get a mount preview? Sure, that's on its way. And I appreciate the actually levity that they bring to this. I like that it feels like we're hanging out with people that you could hang out and have a beer with and literally talk about the game with. And I appreciate that approach. But at the same time, man, it would have been the first conclusion that I jumped to is that I wonder if that something got delayed, and no matter what, they're like, hey, we're not ready until next week. Next week being September, next week after Labor Day, really truly kicking up that road into Season 3, into the expansion, into October. Should be pretty excited. So here's what was surprising to me. The expansion on the PTR. That means this time next week. Brian's an idiot. Next week, probably around Thursday, we might be actually stepping into the PTR, getting hands-on with the mounts, etc. Now, when they release the dev update, I'm going to sit down and do a live stream of that. I like to live stream, react to some of the bigger events, and hopefully you guys can join me. So I'm going to be sure to schedule that out so we can have that kind of experience together. So stay tuned to the channel for that. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they bring with the faction store changes. If anybody's been playing this game for a while knows that there's really not a huge amount that the faction store really truly gets you at the end game, and that could be another way of gearing and progressing. And that's something they teased about what's to come. They talked about how loot is going to have a huge focus for the expansion, and I'm hoping that they can give us many different pathways. I don't mind long grinds. I like the RPG. I like those unattainable goals that are like just out of reach, right? That you can continue to slowly work your way towards, but it's really great to have multiple different avenues so that as a player, depending on what you want to do that day, you can make some level of progress. And that's one of the goals that they've talked about personally. Now, beyond the faction store, they also kind of started to tease about the territory changes that are on the way. I really want some firm information, because I think if they can really incentivize open world PvP, and I've talked about numerous times on the channel how they can do that. If they could do something along those lines that really kind of creates this fun loop and system, I think that would be that'd be a real good fresh coat of paint to that system that now will be 2 years old when it is refreshed with the expansion. What I did find interesting, because we know that they're removing wards and banes, resilience essentially is going to be a trait that's moved onto the character themselves. They talked about some of those minor changes there, but they're going to keep the trophy system. So the wards and banes still will have trophies, but those will ultimately really only apply to the highest level content, the highest mutation runs. And I have to say, I'm very interested in your thoughts about it, because they still said that they want to still keep some of the prep game. And I think that's important, because having trophies and things to chase that can benefit you will, but that's still going to act as some kind of gatekeeping, because humans will human, and there's no cure to humanity in this case. So I'm very curious about your thoughts. Personally, the fact that they're going away from gear, I think that's going to help simplify things to a degree that makes it much easier, and thus making the hardest tier of the content really trophy driven. I guess we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. I'm sure there will be some pushback on that regardless. I'm personally excited to see what the mount preview. They say they're awesome, so that's cool. And I'm personally interested to see what the gearing system and updates look like. It's one of the reasons I kind of held off doing a new getting started guide. I probably, once we get hands on the PTR, I think that's going to be a good time to refresh the guides here on the channel, so that way people can get the latest updated information, and we can have so much more to look forward to as people start stepping their way back into the game for the expansion, for the hype cycle that is to come, and then we'll have to wait and see what happens after that. So that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts overall with what was announced. Obviously not much, but the fact that we're going to be playing in the PTR most likely next week. Next week is the dev update, and I'm going to assume it's not dropping on Monday due to the Labor Day holiday, and so we are going to have to most likely cover it on Tuesday, probably with the PTR going live on Thursday. Those are my best case assessments and analytics for you. Now, at this time, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm going to say class dismissed. This is where we're going to jump into your comments, see what you guys have to say, and I've got one comment here to feature for you. So if you don't want to hang out for this section of the video, thanks for coming. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one, but let's go ahead and dive in. Ram Chaser says, my wishes for a perfect new world in my eyes is console support, including Steam Deck with crossplay, cross-save, and if also possible, split screen. Woo! As a dev, the split screen stuff is challenging. Mega servers that don't need manual fixing when player counts increase in a game. Amen to that. Play with everyone you know without server limitation. The reason to start a new character when console gamers join, like PvP always on the server, that'd be interesting. A new weapon on every update, more interesting complex ones that change for your second weapon as well. For example, a blood magic scepter that lets you sacrifice life instead of using mana, also on your second weapon, possibly for an interesting buffing damage build using life staff to sustain it, or a weapon that lets you shapeshift into an example of Angry Earth and bears or something like that once you got enough rage by blocking and attacking. I do think a druid kind of would be kick-ass if we ever decide to go in that way, but that also sounds OP as F. But we'll see. Rework of a lot of the loot and the dungeon mechanics, for example. New armor set for specific dungeons feel horrible. Give us ingredients for potions on lower dungeons so that we can use them on the higher difficulties. Not entire armor sets that we need to have in the inventory and swap. To continue rework the story and go full sandbox with them. Sadly, I don't know how good it is right now, because starting a new character makes no sense in a game where they've changed a lot. But the players who've gone through the quests a year ago, most of them were as boring as possible. I am just looking for a reason to come back to this game, because I had a lot of fun within the first few weeks in the year playing it through the dungeons. Not sure if the roadmap does it for me. And that's really kind of the thing I'm gonna bring about, like some interesting ideas here. I always want to highlight ideas that you guys have, that I have, even if we agree or we don't agree. But one of the things I want to say is that it really is on the devs from a communication perspective to sell the vision for the future. I'm glad we have a roadmap. I'm glad more games are doing that. Roadmaps are only as good as the trust that we have in the developers, and that is all about delivering on those promises. So with the expansion, with the roadmap, as we continue to see them fire on all cylinders and make less mistakes, I think that actually gives me a lot of hope for this game. Also for the Lord of the Rings MMORPG down the road. Beyond those two points, though, when we go into this next cycle, there's going to be hype. There's going to be that sense of excitement and return to see all that's changed. And this is a good opportunity for them to reintroduce themselves, to reintroduce the game, to reintroduce all the different changes. And yes, there's going to be some downsides too, like servers being capped and, the rush of people coming back to play. That's where I really do hope we can see more of them prioritizing cross server stuff, the ability for people to play, and especially if we end up getting console support. I don't think based off of the fact that we haven't heard of the expansion yet, that console support is in this round, but based off the fact that the engine that they're building this game in is the engine that they're building the Lord of the Rings, and we know Lord of the Rings is coming to consoles, I do think that New World acts as that proving ground for the engine, for the tech, and for the features that they want to build, so that by the time they're ready to launch the Lord of the Rings game, like they've got years of experience, years of knowledge, and a very mature team to really kind of lead that game into the future, as well as this one. I don't see them, slowing down or pulling the plug anytime soon. Well, ultimately, we'll wait and see if I'm right on that. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, I do appreciate the likes. I think the last video that I posted, what is it? What are the numbers here as I look them up in real time? Got 69 likes. Nice. Thank you guys for that. Let's put a humble 40 like goal on this video. If you feel like it earns it, hit that like button, as it's a great way of supporting the content here, and which is what you're going to get in New World. You're also going to get me encouraging you to be awesome, just do some good things out there in the world. And yeah, thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video, but until then, take care.